1.
Right guys, Captain Dirty Hurter here, and we're live at GCKC HQ, and it's the Captain's Table. On the menu today is Subnautica. It describes itself as a survival adventure game. It's developed by Unknown Worlds Entertainment, and they're based in San Francisco, California, and it's using the Unity engine. So, you know when you watch Jaws, the shark's fin poking up above the water, that's scary, right? But then check out the movie poster. He's coming right up your ass, and that's even worse. You wouldn't even know he was there. Imagine that you're in the wide open ocean. It's calm, but that's all there is as far as the eye can see. Bollocks to that. But it's that feeling. It makes Subnautica so immersive, no pun intended. And immersion is indeed the name of the game. So it's the 22nd century. Non-essential systems maintenance chief for the Altera Corporation's Aurora spacecraft, Riley Robinson, is stranded on planet 4546b. After a catastrophic hull failure leads the Aurora to crash land on the mostly ocean planet, its drive core is damaged in the process. After it explodes, Riley has no hope of escaping on the Aurora, forcing him to explore the crash site and the various underwater biomes of 4546b for a means of escape. The story is told through real-time in-game cinematics, audio prompts from your AI guide, and written and audio data logs that are collected from various locations. A lot of games have this style of indirect storytelling in them, particularly in relation to fictional settings. And it's done best, as it is here, when it's quality over quantity. I don't want to be reading reams and reams of endless drivel about how a character you have never and will never meet once thought about slicing the cheese for his cheese on toast instead of grating it. Not only is it fundamentally wrong to use sliced cheese for the aforementioned dish, it's also completely unrelated to anything that we've got going on in-game. As Subnautica is a sandbox game, it can be difficult to deliver this style of indirect storytelling. And it does an excellent job of subtly drawing your attention to things that matter when they become story critical, particularly if you haven't already discovered them by yourself beforehand. This is so important for story pacing when a game chooses to deliver it in this way. In fact, the game does such an excellent job of creating immersion. I don't really want to analyse the methodology too much and ruin it. But essentially, the main control variable is the depth. You need to collect resources and craft better equipment. That enables you to dive deeper to find rarer resources. That enables you to craft even better equipment, so you can dive even deeper, and round and round and round we go, until I wish I didn't eat those 4 custard slices at Greg's. And I'm starting to think that open-toed sandals were a bad idea. There is minimal information to begin with. Crafting something simple as a compass is a massive benefit to your odds of survival. When discovering the richly detailed world is half the fun, why dilute the experience by adding constant prompts? Hence why the minimal information adds so much value. And richly is the key word here. There's a ton of alien wildlife, all of which has its own characteristics and demeanour, and that's spread over multiple biomes, all at different depths. The ocean courses with different fish and plants, all with different properties and uses within your crafting tree. Everything you craft is built using a type of matter manipulation tech. It's called a fabricator. As long as you have the raw materials, you can make anything. Well, anything the developers decide to model, which actually includes some pretty cool stuff, like an amazing submersible mech, an underwater base full of different components that you can switch in and out, and there's a wide selection of other sophisticated underwater equipment, all designed to make your life easier. You can even build a massive sub. Attention, massive sea creatures, your number for the underwater deli has been called. But there's no nice cheeses left. There's only a massive white salami, and you know where that's going. And there's no real weapons here. It kind of goes something like this. Ooh. Make depth 500 meters, load giant death ray. Aye, Captain, making depth 500 meters, loading giant death ray. Very good. Captain, we haven't got a giant death ray installed. Like, what's this shit? Which twat forgot to bring the giant shooter for killing the huge sea monsters? This actually happened. Okay. So as I sit alone in GCKC HQ reviewing these games, I sometimes talk to myself. Maybe a multiplayer game next time. But this idea of no real weapons, okay, there's a stasis gun and there's a few passive torpedoes, like there's one that does gas, and I think there's a stasis one as well. And there's a knife. A tiny knife. But you want to see the size of some of these bastards, and there's no way I'm taking them on with a little knife because they're massive. But it's so refreshing. It reminds me of Dead Space, to a certain degree. Okay, Isaac was still cutting the heads off aliens, but the equipment he used, they were more like tools than weapons. And it made sense, because he was an engineer, he wasn't a combat marine. It's the same here, and the game's not diminished by it. You need to rig your submarine for silent running, for example, just so the giant sea donkeys can't hear you sneaking past.
Rig for silent running.
One thing I did notice was entering and exiting some of the structures. It wasn't done using any sort of airlock system. Now, I'm not a physics expert, but I'm fairly certain that you can't just open the door to your suborkilometer underwater. I understand why they have done it. If you're in and out of buildings and vehicles so often, it would become very frustrating if you constantly had to go through that animation. But it does break the immersion slightly. Just as I found it pants-finningly terrifying to open the next door in Resident Evil, so do I here. When I swim over the lip of an underwater chasm, I'm genuinely scared. And while horror isn't necessarily as crucial a part of the game as it is in Resident Evil, both game genres, their titles contain another word, survival. So when a survival horror game is done well, it's the number and selection of the items that you collect to help you survive. They're managed very carefully within the game to create tension and suspense. These new styles of survival games have a very frank mechanic that's linked directly to your survival, such as hydration or sustenance or temperature. When gameplay can be minimalised in this way, you find that the industry is saturated by opportunists. They're able to mimic the simplified mechanic, and then they think they have a game, air quotes. But they don't add any other applicable gameplay aspects. Thankfully, this is not the case here. The interface links you to the world in a very direct way. For example, if you need to change the power pack on one of your subs, you have to get out and swim around the back and replace it manually. When you're 700 meters under the water, surrounded by the bad men, it's wild scary. It's not all swimming either. There are a few walking sections too. It's a nice change of pace. It's relieving not to have to worry about the 3D space around you for a bit. In general, the game's controls are smooth and the crafting isn't overly heavy. I did experience some slight issues getting the base sections to snap together, and some of the vehicle systems can't be accessed in the moon pool, forcing me to install upgrades outside the safety of my base. In terms of presentation, the game looks and sounds really nice. Firstly, the lighting effects are spot on. The shafts of sunlight that stream through the surface of the water, the luminescent colours in the deep caves, and the floodlights coming from your vehicles are all fantastic. The colours are also vivid. The different biomes all have their own unique palette and hue. And the flora and the fauna within them are excellently crafted assets. The sound in Subnautica is excellent. The drawn-out drones of the giant leviathans is still genuine terror. And the voice acting and script is both well written and well delivered. The contrast between the future tech noises and the very biological sound of the planet's ocean is fundamental to the atmosphere. And Subnautica has it in spades. Something I did find was the texture of the surface of the water. So on a few occasions when I did get high enough to see a larger area, not just bobbing my head up to grab a breath of air, it tended to look like one of those old Windows desktop backgrounds with the same texture repeating over and over again. That's something I would like to have seen diversified a little bit. It's a great game. It's really nicely made, it's really nice to play, and I really enjoyed it. There's loads of options for replay value there if you enjoy building huge bases under the water. The story is engaging, there's a nice few twists going on, and it's got a bit of mystery to it, which is very much my type of thing. If you have the means, I highly recommend you pick them on it.